iTunes Entertainment Magazine, where the focus is to bring information and entertainment wrapped in a little something extra that is pertinent and relative to all of us, regardless of culture. Our features aim at catering somewhat to the curiosity in all of us, whether it be business, entertainment, health and wellness, immigration, our youth, and more. So please visit our website at www.itunesentertainmentmagazine.com or itunesentmagazine.com. Also inviting you to check us out on IG and Twitter at iTunesEntMag.
Hi, I'm Coach Mia, founder of Official Women of Culture 365. Welcome to Caribbean Straight Talk with real conversations and great interviews. And now, here are your hosts.
Good evening. Welcome to Caribbean Straight Talk. My name is George Busso Jr. I have with me my co-host, Lima Dunbar. Tonight, we're going to have a great show for you. Again, we're going to talk about elections coming up. And we have a special guest, Karen Green, that you probably heard of because we've introduced her before on this platform. But before we invite Karen, I want to say hi to Lima. How you doing today?
I'm fine. How you doing, George? You've been away on assignment. I'm really nosy. I want to know what's going on, but I'm going to leave you alone just for tonight because we're getting geared up for election 2022 right here in Florida and around the United States of America.
Absolutely. Aside from our assignment and all the business that's been happening, but what's going on here in Florida, especially in the country, the election, as we spoke about several times, how that is important. And we've been stressing over and over about why your vote matters. The sacrifice has been made for you to vote today. Therefore, before you vote, you need to know of the person you're voting for and the reason why you should support that person or not. We're not here to tell you do this and do that, but we believe that you are very intelligent to make sure that you vote for issues that are very important to you. So without any further ado, we're gonna bring Karen on the screen. But before, I want to remind you to make sure that you get on our social media at Caribbean Straight Talk, whether it's YouTube or IG, with Instagram, as well as Facebook. Get on at Caribbean Straight Talk, one word, and you'll be able to follow up all of our presentations and our guests or great interviews that we have. But right now, let's bring on the screen Karen Green. Hello, Karen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm in the midst of winding down. We have 12 days to go to this midterm. Who would think we're within 2 weeks of securing our democracy? So thank you again for coming here. Lima, my sister, thank you. And George, you guys have been holding the fort of realness, and I'm happy to be here again.
It's a pleasure. We need to remind our viewers that Karen Green is the Florida Democratic Congressional nominee for District 7. She is nominated. In other words, the first round, she won. So now I'm sure that she is here to let us know how she is going to win the general election because we need somebody to send to Congress.
We do.
So,
I also want to remind everyone that early voting has already started, and we have a list of judges that you should retain and those that you should just say goodbye, go on your way. So early voting has already started up until November 6th, and then of course election is on November 8th. So without further ado, let's get started with our conversation with Ms. Karen Green, running for District 7. Florida congressional nominee. I almost said candidate, but nominee for District 7.
I'm Karen Green, and I'm your Democratic nominee for Congressional District 7. Women face pay inequalities, worry about their economic future and those of their children. COVID heightened these concerns. The federal government should not have the right to keep you from bearing arms, and it should not have the right to strip fundamental choices from women. As your elected representative, I will work with all entities to protect the rights of women because women's rights are human rights. I pledge to support initiatives that advance women and their right to choose. Hi, I'm Karen Green, and I'm the Democratic nominee for Congressional District 7. When I win, we all win.
So Karen, I know that you've waged a major campaign. I'm sure that it was very stressful. It's a lot of work for you to be where you are. And I remember the last time you mentioned some of the issues that are very important to you. So I just want you to give our viewers a reminder of your platform, what is really important to you, so what we should expect from you once you are at the Congress in Washington. Karen?
Well, thank you again. So you're right. My last election before I was here, it was a primary. It was well contested. I won with a landslide victory of 45% in a crowded race of 4 candidates. And the opposite side, there were 9 Republicans on the other side. So where we sit today, since we were last here, you know, the priorities of the state has not changed, or of the country. However, we were hit with Hurricane Ian, which to me, we've all, you know, here in Florida, it's tropical. We've experienced hurricanes quite frequently because of where we are in the tropics and the tail of it here. But more importantly, these hurricanes have gotten worse. Climatically, they have gotten more intense, and the frequency of category 4s and 5s have just become so, almost within the last 10 years, more horrific. So yes, my name is Karen Green, as you were told. I am the Congressional Democratic nominee for District 7. The area I represent is a seat that was vacated by Stephanie Murphy, Congresswoman Stephanie Murphy, because of redistricting in the state of Florida, thanks to the current governor and his legislative body. We now have District 7 covers all of Seminole County and southern Volusia. And depending on how the map you see it, there's a piece of Orange County. But the way it is now listed, it is in fact all of Seminole, southern Volusia. My priorities, I'm running to protect democracy. I got in this race in the summer because I thought it was important, looking at where we were in the nation and across the globe, post-pandemic, the horrors of what we were seeing. We saw what was now turning out to be an unnecessary war in Ukraine. And then more importantly, where we were as a society, what happened in January, I saw where democracy was almost stolen. And so what is on the ballot right now, it is democracy. It is civil liberties. It is common sense gun control. It is the pocketbook issues. It is also the recovery of Ian, but more so, how do we go about protecting our environment and the studies of climate change? The science of that. There is also the concern to me in my district that I hope to represent. There is the working class. The working class, and also a very large population of veterans, seniors, students. My district also has one of the most, you know, the average age in this district, the population ratio is under 39 years old. And so this district has a need for affordable housing, education reprieves, and it is by far one of the best school districts we've come to know. People move to Seminole County because of the schools. It's part of the Beach Coast. It's leading up to Brevard, which is close to, you know, we have all of Deltona, Smyrna Beach, beautiful areas. And of course, the rivers that we have to procure. There's a whole lot of agriculture here. And my role and my hope and aspiration is to be able to get to Congress to protect the freedoms that we saw almost taken from us with a woman's right to her freedom. I'm getting ready to get to Congress to literally codify Roe. I'm going to Congress as a freedom defender, George, to protect our rights, and that is my intention.
Freedom defender. I need to underline that, Karen, once you win, I don't say if, but once you win that general election, you will be the first Jamaican American to be elected in Congress, correct?
I will be the first Jamaican, but more important, the first Caribbean born.
First Caribbean born, I like that. The first Caribbean born, that means to see closer. This is very important. And I know that Lima has a few questions, because I know one of the topics that is really dear to her heart is the women's right, because we talked about it last time. And for me, as much as women's rights and gun control and immigration, these are some of the topics that are really dear to our hearts. So now, before I'm monopolizing everything, I want to bring Lima on, and Lima could follow up with her concerns or questions to you. Lima.
Hi, Karen. How are you again?
I'm holding the line. I'm up against a war-tested veteran, one who is funded by Donald Trump, endorsed, and it's a serious race.
It is a serious race, and one of the things that I mean, the reversal of Roe versus Wade, in and of itself, is something that we're trying to deal with, but we need to fight against. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about as you move forward and you represent us in Congress is how will you address, or how will you take on some of these legislation problems that the governor of Florida has kind of like implemented with regards to that. I mean, granted, Florida is one of those states, or one of the friendliest states, because you still have a 15-week period before the abortion that you can have the abortion within, right? Mm-hmm. But still, when you go up there, you're representing Florida, but you're representing women on the whole around the United States. So we have to approach it as one body. So,
right.
So what are your thoughts? What are your plans on how you're going to approach this, address this?
Thank you for that question. One of the things that I've experienced within the last, since this reversal occurred, the freedom was violated and taken from us. This is one of the most unifying topics within the district. It doesn't matter what party you're on, Republican, Independent, or if you choose to be whichever you are, and Democrats. It has become a real cry. It's a real topic of concern, Lima. Mm-hmm. When I get to Congress, I will be finding and aligning people like-minded, because this is not a Democratic issue alone. It is an economic, healthy freedom option for every American, every woman. No woman should be restricted from making the choices of her body if you have the restrictions of bearing arms. This is a constitutional referendum that needs to be corrected. So on that point, when I get to Congress, we're going to find folks like myself, like-minded, not just women, but men in the House who know that this is not a decision only of a woman, but also of a family, and the responsibility that comes with parenting and all that happens with a woman's choice. You know me, many of you know I am a cancer survivor of uterine cancer. And I believe that some of these issues as a woman, we cannot. Lima, I get passionate on this topic. And it is because we seem to see this only as an abortion issue. But may I just illustrate for 1 minute? I won't spend too long on this. The governor and folks who choose to believe that this is, well, let me back up. My opponent doesn't see any, he has already said it. There's no exception. Incest, rape, you name it. He wouldn't be going along those lines. He actually took the opt-out of saying it would be left to the states to make those decisions. See, this is where I disagree, because this is not supposed to be above anybody's government.
No, this is between you and your OBGYN.
My sister.
Nobody else.
My sister.
Nobody else.
There is no.
I don't understand why they cannot understand that. When I go to the doctor and I'm in that room, it's me and my doctor, not me and all the senators and all the House of Representatives and a judge here and a judge there and a lawyer there and a lawyer here. It's me and my OBGYN.
I think so many of them use this because they realize the sensitivity. They've used this topic by copying out of it. Some of them just basically say they're shifting the blame almost to take the responsibility off of their heads. But there is no question, my sister, to answer your point and question when I get to Congress, this would be a priority, because it's not just the freedom of a woman. It is her choice. It is literally one of the first things they're going to try to, they've moved this, and they have other things which are on the chopping block. They have the reversal of even, we've seen Clarence Thomas's notion about
contraception.
Oh, Jesus, let's not even go there.
But you know what, something, Karen? I'm sorry, George, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I know that, the time is really running. And for me, I know that I'm going to leave you in good hands because I know there are so many other topics that Lima would want to follow up. But, and then without any further ado, it's time for us to take our commercial break. But before, I need to remind you that Karen Green is the Florida Democratic Congressional nominee for District 7. She's here to talk to us. And Lima is going to take on by the time we transition out of our commercial break. We'll be right back.
There is an urgent need for affordable housing. We must narrow the gap. There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to afford houses or rents in this district. We've seen what happened post-pandemic. There is a way for federal funding to get to the states, to the counties. I've heard you. I've heard each and every person in this district. There is a way to make sure that we can have the representation in Congress. I'm asking that you support me. Get me to Congress. I've lived your experience. We know what it is to go through owing rent and not being able to afford it. I want to make sure that we narrow the gap. Vote Karen Green for Congress. When I win, we all win.
Val Branch Duncan, realtor with North Star First Properties. Whether it's buying or selling, Val can help, and she is certified to assist you in Jamaica, Grenada, Guyana, Barbados, Bahamas, and Trinidad and Tobago. Val Branch Duncan, where Val, the V stands for valuable, the A, attentive, L, loyal. Please call Val at 321-303-9345 or at her office 407-844-8622. And we are back. Again, this is Caribbean Straight Talk. My name is Lima Dunbar with host Mr. George Bousson. And we have a really interesting guest with us today as we are in the process or in progress of voting for election 2022 here in the state of Florida and around the United States. Remember, early voting started on the 24th and it will go through November 6th. And then in preparation for the big day, by that time, everyone, I would like to think, should have voted. And the big day is November 8th. So we have Ms. Karen Green back with us. Karen?
Hi, Lima. Again, thank you for that discussion earlier. While we were on break, I was just thinking of a situation where that 9-year-old child had to be shipped out of 2 states after an initial rape. And to think that anyone in their minds would believe a 9-year-old child should mother a child. And it's the risk. It is so harsh. The consequences, the circumstances for that child to go through life. There's so many reasons. It's not even economic. It's the trauma of that child having to face a rapist down the road later on in life. Their children have that child having to experience who the father was. I just think we need to have a common sense approach.
We need to have a common sense approach. But another topic I want to kind of like switch gears just for a little bit is let's talk about Social Security and the fact that Florida is one of the states where you have a high percentage of elderly people or seniors moving here, already living here. And I know that one of the things that the Republican or the GOP would like to dismantle is Social Security. And I know that they're changing their tune as we're in progress for voting. But what are your thoughts on Social Security and where it should be and where it is and where it should not be?
Listen to me. Social Security just almost celebrated, I think it was their 85th anniversary, 51. There has not been an increase for Social Security. This is one of the major, coming out of Ian, there's so many folks in the state of Florida who, because they cannot afford to buy medication, they're on a fixed income. A lot of them didn't have flood insurance and they will not be able to rebuild. Florida, as you know, has I think it's the 3rd largest senior population and seniors and disabled in the country. And there is the idea that the Rick Scott 0.11 plan was even considered to chop Medicare for our people and Social Security benefits. It doesn't even make any sense. People were coming out of the pandemic. We're coming to a place, there was in fact a Social Security bill brought to the House last year where there was a proposal to increase I think it's by 30, the percentage. I have those numbers. I'll be clear on that in a little bit, but we have to modify this as well. We have to make sure that we procure Social Security and Medicare. This is not something that we're borrowing. All of us who've worked in this country and people before us who've worked, this is money they were invested to take care of our elderly, sick and infirmed. This is not something that we are using to reinvest. And so I think it is on the chopping block, Lima. The Republicans are looking to get rid of this. Our own Senator Rick Scott was one who proposed that. And the reality is that my opponent, let me just be blunt,
yes,
long supported that. Only this morning did he have a reversal of opinion that he's suggesting that he will be looking to secure that, because you know why? We are neck and neck in a race. My sister, I'm in a district that my opponent is a multimillionaire based on what we're hearing. They all came to this district. And this was drawn by DeSantis to take back this district from the Democrats, right?
Okay, pause for a second, because again, I know we spoke about this the last time that you were on the show, but what I have trouble dealing with is the fact that DeSantis took it back to the Florida legislature. And at first they said no. He took it back. Then they said yes. And I know that sometimes lawsuits can be happening in the background that we are not aware of, and maybe this is one of them. And I know that even if there's a lawsuit pending, we can't do anything much about it because right now we're in the voting process. But this is ridiculous that this man can pretty much do whatever he wants. He redraws the lines, and now we have where it's been monopolized to where it's what, 50-50 as far as Republican and Democrats?
My sister, there is a simple solution, and we have 12 days to fix it. We need to elect a Democratic governor.
Amen.
We need to make sure that Charlie Crist is the governor and that Val Demings is a senator. It's an easy fix. I know the House, and make sure we elect up and down the ballot. We vote for our Democrats, our House representatives going in the House to secure the legislature so that we can in fact make those changes. We were dictated into these districting. Then we brought people in here who didn't even live here in our district, anywhere near here, to hold on to these lines. My sister, when we talk about this, you and I talk about these some things sometimes. We talk about democracy, and this is the first time. My sis, if we get these people to Congress that are trying to go there, the election deniers, the folks who have not criticized or disavowed what happened on January 6th and are making excuses, they're planning to go back. They do not believe that Joe Biden is president. They have agreed that this is what they're going to do. They have shown us that they are willing to create coups in the United States of America. My sister, everyone who's watching this program this evening, your Medicare, your life, your democracy as you know it, your freedom, your voting rights, civil justice. A woman's right is just the beginning. They're going after your freedom. In some states, they still don't believe that Black and white people should be married. They don't believe that there is any kind of problem with our climate. They still don't believe that we should be looking at alternative energy. They don't believe we should be looking at science as a modern way of life, because God promised us that wisdom and knowledge would increase. They don't see these things as changeable, my sister. They're coming to talk about every time we have had a striving economy in this country that was left by Democrats.
They come and they trash it.
And then when anything happens, let us be clear. The horrible pandemic that we were coming off, we were making strides in this country. Even after the pandemic, we were catching up. After the rescue plan and other initiatives, we were coming back.
But here's what I would like to say. When you win, because we have to call it into reality.
Amen.
In existence.
Amen.
When you win, one of the things I am saying now, and I said some months ago when we were going through the whole primaries, or even before the primaries. It's important that we educate our people and we don't try to play catch up every time there's an election, because you know what, Karen, a lot of people still don't understand the importance of these elections. I'm not saying that the presidential election ain't important. It's very important, but people don't see how important the primaries are. And I think one of the things that you guys need to do when you get into power is to help educate people, whether it's every 3 months or every 4 months. Let's see if we could do a program here, there, wherever, so we could start helping people to understand that we can't keep playing catching up. Because check it, Karen, every time there's an election, what do the Republicans go after? Social Security, healthcare. I mean, they go after the same talking points. And I don't know when people will start understanding that is what is happening. So I feel we need to take it to them.
Well, let me just make one correction, that I don't want to get into power.
Yeah, I know. When I said that, I was like, that was the wrong word, but I was like,
I want to get into leadership, because you and I know my slogan is, when we win together, we will win. And that's exactly where I want to go with this. I think for a long time, so many people are politicians and they lose the peace of the people. They lose what it is they go there to represent. And I'm saying this from a general standpoint. Everybody knows I've been here and I need your help. Let me just tell everybody listening to us this evening. You need money in politics to run campaigns, but what you do need is the dedication of a candidate and the support of constituents. It takes money to do these things. And I'm appealing to you this evening, when we get off this program, please go to KarenGreenforFlorida.com. That's KarenGreenforFlorida.com, and chip in, because every dollar is going to make a difference right now. And I'll say why we're saying this. We cannot send my opponent to Congress. I am not here to bash anyone, because you all know that my faith does not have me cussing people out. But what I will do is I will go for truth and I will defend it. I will protect you. And I'm saying, somebody who has an industry, this district after the pandemic, after what we now see as a revival of life, this person, one of his primary positions outside of being a Trump supporter is he's anti-immigration. He says we need to have a moratorium. We need to stop bringing immigrants in this country. And he believes we should stop that. No, my family, everybody listening, this country, as I've said before, was built by immigrants. People don't want to hear it, but it is the truth. This state, not only do we have one of the highest senior population, but one of the occupations we have in this country. Americans are aging, and immigrants in this country are healthcare workers. Healthcare workers protecting these families. We have the H-2 visas for agriculture. How do we eat if we don't have people working to feed the plant? Now we had a hurricane. How are we going to rebuild when people don't want to take on these jobs? The infrastructure bill, the Recession Act, we need to look at all of these things that we need to do. The Inflation Reduction Act. The Democrats need to hold the line, my sister. And I don't know why folks are giving up on some of these races. For one, they saw this district after it was redrawn as a Republican drawn district, which would now put it at a 3-point behind, Republican advantage. Well, guess what? I'm a candidate running with hardly any money in this race. But what I am is real. And the people in my district are real people. We are now neck and neck in the polls. With this district, as I said before, there is Republicans and there are Democrats. I think it's like a 3-point advantage to Republicans in registration. But this district has just a third of independents as well in this district. So this is not decided by the Republicans in this district. It is decided on the issues of the person who's going to come here and understand where we are, where we've been, and where we can go. And that is where I am here to say to you, I've lived the American dream. I know what it is to come from a nation that was seen as a developing country. And yet today, Jamaica, right next door to us, is thriving. our Caribbean neighbors and friends in this country, every immigrant in this country came here. Most of us came here from the regions by choice. And we contribute every day. Every immigrant that came to these shores, generations, centuries, those of us who came here willingly or we were brought here or sold, we have made a world of a life. And I'm saying to you folks, what I see happening, my sister Lima, the whole thought now about recession, the world is in a recession. America is like probably 10th on the list of where we are in numbers numerically.
You see, I know we're short on time, but this is what I want people to understand, that we are not in a recession and we are doing really well compared to other countries around the world. But because of the Republican or the GOP talking points, people tend to believe that Biden has caused the inflation. But if you really look at it, if people really look to pay attention as with what's happening around the world, inflation is hitting every country in the world, and it started with the Ukraine war that Putin started. But people are not paying attention to that. And America is doing really, really well. But my sister, we have to go because we just have to go.
As usual.
So
I'm going to stick 30 seconds in here. I'm just saying that even on the Putin war, my opponent supported Trump when not getting funds to Ukraine. He doesn't want to have immigrants here. He's against the woman's freedom. He actually is a manufacturer of tear gas, is his business. That was sold. My understanding is that the tear gas that he sold to China was used on Hong Kong civilians. And that and he also was contributing, his company might have also used tear gas on our Black Lives Matter folks. Listen, folks, we don't need anybody collaborating like we had in January 6th. America is a free country. And I am asking you, wherever you are this evening, if you've already voted, I humbly ask you, now, please consider me, vote Karen Green for Florida. It's hurricane season, do it early so we don't have to get stuck by any shenanigans. God bless you all.
God bless you. I got to say, your opponent, he's a hot mess. He is a hot mess.
And an expensive, rich one.
Oh my gosh.
Democracy is real in this country, sister. It is truly real. I'm going to continue to run a clean race.
Yes.
I'm not here to do anything else. I'm going to pray that we get through this together and that we will continue to build back better.
Thank you. Thank you, my sister. We have Miss Karen Green, and she is the Florida Democratic congressional nominee for District 7. I had so many words, but I got to think about it, and we want you to please listen. This is not about, do what's right. And in my mind, what is right for you and your family is to vote them straight down the ballot. But hey, that's just me. All right. But hey, Karen, thanks for being on our show. And we know that you're going to do this. You're going to do this.
See you on November 8th, my sister, when we win this. When we all win. God bless you.
And we all win.
Bye.
I'm Karen Green, your Democratic nominee for Congressional District 7. When workers had the freedom to organize, they enjoyed job security and were able to take care of their families. They raised the quality of life for all of society. But the Republican Party's governors and legislators across the country have advanced anti-worker policies to undercut the labor movement. If we're to rebuild the middle class, we have to protect workers' rights. We must ensure the right to organize. This is especially true in Central Florida, where so many work in the hospitality business and industry. As your representative, I will tirelessly work across the aisles and across this district to help restore and strengthen workers' rights. Karen Green for Congress. Please remember my name, Karen Green, because when I win, we all win.
Zep Bolai Lawrence, Realtor and Property Stager with Lake Nona's Fugile Realty Group. You can give Zep a call at 321-689-3467, fax 321-445-6054, or you can email her at zepbl9@gmail.com. Once again, Zep Bolai Lawrence, Realtor and Property Stager with Lake Nona's Fugile Realty Group. Thank you for tuning in. And again, this is Lima Dunbar with Caribbean Straight Talk. You listened to everything that Miss Karen Green had to offer. She is the Florida congressional nominee for District 7, a lot of words. And up next, we have Mr. Maxwell Frost, and he is the U.S. representative for the House of U.S. Representatives. I know I'm jacking it up, but you know what? When Max comes on, he can break it on himself, and he is for District 10. Stay tuned.
Women of Culture 365 presents Glow, a greater level of wellness, with your host, Coach Mia Ullman, founder of Women of Culture 365 and Glow. Along with me are my co-host, Coach Sophie G, bringing you words of wisdom. Coach Dawn Hewitt shows how to treat the whole body, and Coach Lady Q, bringing you spiritual wellness. Join us as we go Facebook Live at Glow 365 TV show and on YouTube at Official Women of Culture, culture spelled with a K, every second Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as we talk about the mind, body, and soul. A conversation you do not want to miss. Also, visit us online at womenofculture.com.
Caribbean Straight Talk. Again, my name is George, and we have our second guest. I'm not going to ask you to guess who because it's familiar to this show. We are talking about Maxwell Frost. Maxwell is the Florida Democratic congressional nominee for District 10. We are ready to have a real conversation with Max. And as we said here in this show, we keep it real. So in that light, first off, let me share or give you my sympathies. Max, I know that your grandma, your abuela, just passed. So I know that you're a strong man and you are pushing forwards regardless. So how does it feel for you that not only you win, but you're dealing with those two kind of feelings, kind of bittersweet? You won the nominee, and then your grandma passed. So how does that feel?
I mean, it's a lot, and thank God she was here during the campaign. She was able to see the struggle we went through, everything we did, and she was able to see our primary victory, which I count as a blessing. She passed away at 97 years old, and for me, I just count my many blessings. She came here from Cuba in the late 1960s with no money, no English. Her daughter, my mother, is a special education teacher of 30 years. She retires this year. Now her grandson's going to Congress. So even though I'm incredibly sad, she's one of the closest people in my life. I'm also, feeling extremely blessed that I had her in my life.
I can imagine. I remember when my grandma passed, and even this week seems to be the week of some bad news, even on my part and some of my friends' parts. But let's get into it, Max. Now that you won the nominee, and then I know that you're getting ready to go to Congress, because we're feeling that you're probably going to win in the general election. And there are quite a bit of serious issues out there. But before we get into the specific questions, because we also have my co-host here, Lima Dunbar, who will also ask some very serious questions. But let me have a reminder of your platform so people understand a little bit about what you're all about. What are some of the issues that are really close to your heart that you would feel that you're going to really fight hard once you get to Congress?
Yeah, well, there's so many issues, and part of governing is being able to do everything at the same time, also prioritize things that need to be done. For me, there's multiple issues. The one I always like to start talking about is our democracy. It is the key to unlock action on gun violence, on the climate crisis, on the economy, by making sure that people have, yes, the right to vote, but the accessible right to vote. And we know in certain parts of this country and a lot here in Florida, voting is becoming harder. It is becoming harder and harder to cast your ballot, especially for Black and brown folks. And so for me, it's thinking about how can we protect our democracy, ensure that there's accountability when people try to wreck it, like we saw on January 6th, doing everything we can to make voting an accessible right to every single person in this country, and getting big money out of politics, all of that, the election reform that we need. Aside from that, look, the climate crisis is here. We need to do everything we can to prevent it, to fight climate change. We need to do everything we can to prevent gun violence, to ensure that we have an economy that works for everybody, bring down costs, bring up wages, ensure that people have the resources they need, healthcare for every single person in this country, because in the richest country on the face of the earth, I think that healthcare ought to be a human right, and ensuring that people have access to public transportation and affordable housing, which is a huge issue here in Central Florida right now.
Well, that's amazing. That's amazing. Before we pass on to Lima, because I know that she's aching, cannot wait to get on and ask you some questions. But one of the issues that are really close to our hearts, and you already know that we are a country of immigrants, and here you're running in a state where there are multiple ethnicity. And right now, and you are on Caribbean Straight Talk. In other words, we are of Caribbean descent. So we want to make sure that we ask questions that links to our community. And right now, there is one country in the Caribbean that is really facing some very tough time, and times that we've never seen before, with gang violence, just like a gang war. We're talking about the country of Haiti, where I came from. And right now, the Biden administration is considering, sending troops to Haiti. This was demanded by the de facto regime, supported by the international community here in Port-au-Prince. So some people are for sending troops, and some are against that due to the fact of some of the precedent history pretending to sending troops to Haiti. And it seems like that left some kind of very bitterness in the mouth of many Haitians abroad and also in Haiti. So if you get into Congress, we're talking about international policy because you're talking about being in a big platform. What's your take on that? Do you feel that the Biden administration is doing the right thing, or because even though they don't want to lead the mission, but they still trying to work with other countries to see if they could send people down there and people are dying? Is that a good thing, or would you consider or advising the president to do something different?
Yeah, well, look, we know that the situation in Haiti is dire, that they need, number one, resources, but they also need help. We know the rising problems with gang violence and organized crime that is running rampant in Haiti, committing violence on the communities, taking the scarcity of resources that already exists. And our country does need to act to ensure that we're helping Haiti, and that we're helping the people there. As far as specific actions, I'm not sure what exactly is the right thing to do. I want to look a little bit more into what the president is proposing, but I do think we need to take bold action, ensuring that we're getting more resources to the island, to Haiti, to the nation, that we're getting, that we're ensuring that we do everything that needs to be done, so that way they have what they need to protect their people, and to protect human beings. And for me, that's really what this is about. The United States, oftentimes we have operated as a country that it's kind of almost empire, right? And for me, I think it's important that as we have a footprint around the nation, or around the country, not around the country, around the world, that it is for humanitarian purposes. But I want to make sure it never leads into something more than that. And so I want to look a little bit more into what the president is proposing. But I agree with the president that something needs to be done, and it can't just be the United States. It has to be all of us coming together to help Haiti.
Thank you very much for your answers. I would follow back on that, but I don't want to keep Lima suffering more. Please, Lima, come up, and I'm sure that you have some good questions. Lima?
This is Lima. And Max, thanks again for being on the show, Caribbean Straight Talk. We don't have a lot of time, and I have a lot of questions. So let me see how I could pile it on there. I'm going to be 60 pretty soon. I want to know about Social Security. I want to know about the economy, because in my assessment, the economy is thriving, is doing well when you compare it to other economies around the world. Okay, so what will you be prepared to do or assist or jump in and do whatever you have to do for Social Security?
Yeah, well, we have to ensure that we strengthen Social Security and also all the other, wraparound programs, things like Medicare, Medicaid, ensuring that when people retire, they're able to retire with dignity. When our folks become older in this country, they're able to live with dignity. And the fact of the matter is that there is a specific party in this country, unfortunately, that has been working to weaken Medicaid, weaken Medicare, weaken Social Security for generations. In fact, one of our senators, Senator Rick Scott, released a platform that says he thinks Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare should be on the chopping block every 5 years. Every 5 years, we should look at getting rid of it. For me, when I go to DC, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to say no. We cannot put Social Security on the chopping block. In fact, we need to strengthen it because this is your money, right? You've been paying into this your entire life. The other thing we need to do is ensure that that right now there's a double taxation on Social Security. You get taxed when you pay into it, you get taxed when you pull out of it. I think we need to ensure that we're doing everything we can to make it so that way you're getting the majority of the money you deserve so you can live your life with dignity. And this is something that, we talked about my abuela, my grandma, she passed away, just seeing her get checks that were not helping her in the way that she needed to be helped. That if she didn't have my family, she would live in intense and insane poverty. There's folks who live like that right now all around the country.
They're on a fixed Social Security. Most Social Security seniors that are on Social Security, they live on a fixed income. That simply means, and it took me a while. I think it was years ago I finally began to understand what a fixed income is. And most of them are on a fixed income. That means they have a certain amount of money for gas, a certain amount of money for electricity, for phone bill. And when you try to cut something that someone can barely get by on, I mean, what does that say about them? And I always think that the Republicans are very short-sighted. You don't need to agree with me if you don't want to, but this is my thought. We all have a senior in our family or seniors in your family. How could you come up with something that's going to take away from what they currently have, that's going to bring it down to bare nothing? Another thing, thoughts on expanding the Supreme Court and term limits. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I am for expanding the Supreme Court. Congressman Montefiore Jones, who is a supporter of my campaign in the primary, he is one of the leaders in Congress on this. He has a bill called the Judiciary Act of 2021. Will add more Supreme Court justices. And people, will say, hey, packing the court, it's not right. But the fact of the matter is the court is packed right now. Republican GOP leaders denied President Barack Obama, his constitutional right of putting Merrick Garland on that court years ago. And they went in and they put someone in that shouldn't be on that court. And then we see that Donald Trump was able to appoint more folks as well. The court skews extremely conservative in a country that is not extremely conservative. And so the court is packed right now. And what we have to do is we have to unpack it by adding more justices. I think it makes sense. It's in line with modern society, and I'm 100% for it, and we'll fight for it in Congress.
And the guest that we had on before you, Ms. Karen Green, who's running for District 7, she said something similar, which is that pretty much, we have a Supreme Court Justice, Thomas, who is already, in a sense, thumbing his nose at everything that the court should stand for by blocking Senator Lindsey Graham. She didn't say that part, but I'm saying that, yes, we need to restrict half-term limits because the arrogance that we are seeing currently with most of these justices should not be happening. One more thing. One of the things that I think is really important, and it's not what everybody else thinks it is simply educating our citizenry as to the importance of elections. Everyone seems to think that the presidential election is the most important, when yes, it is, but it is not the most. The election that you're in, the primaries, that is the most important election. And I feel that every election that comes around, we have to be starting from scratch all the time. What are your thoughts on having some kind of program where we could start educating the citizens and residents, like every 4 to 5 to 6 months, just doing some programs in and around the state so that we could help people understand the importance of A as opposed to B?
Yeah, no, I think it's really important that we have an educated public on our system. But a big part of this is making sure that we institutionalize voting. And I think this is part of the reason why 50% of the country doesn't vote. It's an extracurricular, right? I mean, if you think about it, you have to go register on your own. It's not part of school. It's not a lot of school. We're trying to change that. It's not part of schooling. It's not part of, your day-to-day life. It's really something that you have to go out of your way to go do. And I think voting should be easy. It should be one of the easiest things in the world. We should be able to vote. I think at some point, as we continue to beef up our security, I just think it's wild that on the internet you can transfer millions of dollars, but you can't cast a ballot. I think that's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that on one of the most important days of the year, Election Day, that it's not a federal holiday where people can take off to go and vote. I think it's ridiculous that in a country where the government has all the information about you that they need, and banks have all the information about you that they need for you to go in debt, why can't we use that information for you to have automatic voter registration where every person's registered as soon as they turn 18 and they don't have to do anything? So there's a lot we need to do.
I got to tell you, at the Gay Pride Parade where I helped you guys out at the table, that was really evident to me because a couple of the young people that were on the streets and, I'm approaching them and telling them, hey, remember to vote before or by November 8th. And some of them said they're not registered. And I'm like, you are in a Gay Pride Parade where they're taking away your rights. Okay, you're one of the endangered species and you guys ain't even registered to vote. I mean, I didn't tell them that, but those were the thoughts going through my mind. People need to understand how important it is. If you do not step up to the plate, then you do not have the right to complain.
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is we need people to go out and vote. And so I agree with the programs. I think we need to educate people.
Okay. And Max, if you allow me to jump in real quickly, I don't know if I know that you mentioned that in the introduction, but I needed to elaborate a little bit more, particularly with regards to gun violence. We know what's going on in our neighborhood, the number of people, being killed, the number of, black and brown people being incarcerated for minor crimes. And gun violence is one of the biggest issues in this country. And then the number of people being killed from the minority echelon in the society. So what's your take on that, and how would you take on those big corporations that are lobbying to keep major guns? I'm talking about, war type of guns in the hands of regular citizens.
Well, there's a lot we need to do. And the way I think about gun violence prevention is I like to there's a few different parts of it. It's a very comprehensive issue. And what I always say is it's kind of not an issue in and of itself. It's the symptom of a lot of other things, right? Big money in politics, poverty, the school to prison pipeline, criminal justice reform, all of this creates the conditions for gun violence. And what statistics tell us, most gun violence are crimes of condition. What's a crime of condition? It's where someone has been pushed to the brink in society to the point where they feel like they can use the weapon to get ahead, to feed their family, to get the money they need, to end the sorrow they have. And what we need to do as legislators is think, how are we going to build a world where no one feels the need to use a gun to solve their problems in the first place? And so that means when you take a step back, you go, wow, healthcare for everybody helps end gun violence. A dignified wage for everybody helps end gun violence. Ensuring that people have affordable housing, they don't have to worry about having food on their plates or a roof over their head or how they're going to pay for medicine, will help end gun violence. The other part of this is the regulation of guns. And most Americans, the mass majority of NRA members and Republicans, are for things like universal background checks. We call it common sense gun reform for a reason, because it's common sense. And so we have to ensure that we do everything we can to get big money out of politics so the NRA doesn't have a say, because right now they're funding these candidates who are stopping this, even though most NRA members are for background checks, but yet they work to prevent it. So there's just so much that needs to happen. Yes, gun regulation is very important, but also upping the standard of living, making sure people have more money in their pockets and that they're not pushed to the brink, I think we're going to see that helps end crime generally.
Yeah, and I agree. And it makes sense. The thing is really, I'm sorry, it's really funny that a lot of times, the argument is we're trying to take guns away from people. And where, in fact, it's not like taking guns away from people, because I had the question when I was a candidate as well, but it's a matter of protecting people from individuals who are not supposed to have guns in their hands in the first place. For example, when talking about background, we know mental health is a big issue. And then we're not addressing the mental health part of it properly or efficiently enough. But yet, anybody with whatever sort of preconditioned mental health issues could have assault weapon in his or her hands and committed crime. And afterwards, we're going to go ahead and have all those rape ceremonies and notes in the press. So now the background check is really important. Now, how would you address the mental health part of it before we segue to Lima again?
Yeah. Well, look, I think like there's a lot to do, and look, mental health is a part of it. And what statistics show us, believe it or not, people with mental health issues, which I would argue we all got mental health issues, and we got to work to destigmatize that. But the other thing, people with serious mental health conditions are actually more likely to be the victims of gun violence, not the ones that commit it. And so when you look at the numbers, it tells a little bit of a different story. But I'll end by saying this: providing healthcare to everyone, ensuring that within that healthcare we include mental health services, and that people have the resources they need to get help when they need it, not 3 months, 4 months, 5 months down the road, is extremely important. That's why I'm for a single payer system. And I would say anyone who preaches helping people with healthcare, it's not just having the service available. It's about ensuring people can afford the service and people can access it. And unfortunately, we don't have that right now.
Well, Maxwell, I know I'm going to say to you what I say to my clients. I know you got a boogie. I know you got to go. So we thank you so much for being a part of Caribbean Straight Talk tonight. Give your family my love, okay? And you take care, and we will see you on the Hill.
I'll see y'all then. Have a great night. God bless. Thank you.
No problem, Max. Okay. Thank you.
Everyone go vote. Everyone go vote.
Go vote. Go vote. Remember, early voting started on the 24th, ends on November 6th, and then you have November 8th, where we all need to go to the polls. Yes.
Exactly. We need to remind ourselves and all of viewers that Maxwell Frost is a Florida Democratic congressional nominee. District 10, I should need to vote for him. District 10 is ready to go. And we're going to stop our show now. I don't know if you have a last word, Lima, before we go.
I want to remind you that earlier on we had our candidate. No, she's not a candidate. She's a nominee for District 10. She's a nominee. Ms. Karen Green. Please remember that she's on the ballot. Also, when we're going to go for a break, when we come back from the break, I will read all the delegates, all the Democrats that are on the ballot that we hope you vote for, including the judges not to vote for. We'll be right back.
2 months ago, I confronted Governor DeSantis on ending gun violence. And what did he say?
Nobody wants to hear from you.
I'm Maxwell Alejandro Frost, and I've been making sure they hear from us for 10 years. Protecting the right to choose, passing laws to end gun violence. If we want bold change on guns, reproductive health, and affordable housing, we can't keep electing the same politicians. I approve this message because when they want to silence our voices,
nobody wants to hear from you.
I won't let them.
Welcome back. You are on our show, Caribbean Straight Talk, where we keep it real. And as usual, we always bring you information that we feel that you should know about. And tonight, we've been reinforcing over and over the importance of voting. And if you have any doubt of who you should vote for and how you should go about it, Lima did a tremendous job in putting a list of potential people that you're supposed to be considering. And there are reasons for that. And she will tell you. Because now the time is the time of action. And our democracy is being attacked. And we know what's happening with all those laws. And now we're talking about appointing judges. And we've highlighted that here on the show, why it is important to vote for some of the judges, particularly the federal judges. They are appointed for life. And their decisions are going to impact you for generations. So when we're considering voting, of course, you want to vote people for Congress, for the Senate, of course, for president, but those people that are locals, that are making decisions in your life on a regular basis, you have to be considering and be cognizant of how you should vote and who you should vote for. Lima, come on board and let us know what you have for us in terms of who we should consider voting for.
Well, George, before I even share that information, I got to say this. Each election cycle, and I've been voting now for, oh my goodness, probably over 10 election cycles. So that says a whole lot. I typically would vote for people or candidates that share the same interests, or I can see that they're doing something for my family, my community. So what that means is that I would not just vote them down the ballot. I would also vote Republican because, you know, I saw that their platform was one that engaged my community. That has changed. That has changed. And I say that on this show, Caribbean Straight Talk, we keep it real. All right. This is not a Democratic show or a Republican show or an independent show. It's for everybody. And I say that to say, vote Democrat down ballot. Okay. I'm serious because these Republicans are crazy. Anyhow, these are the judges that for Florida Supreme Court Justice retentions. Do not vote for Charles Kennedy. Do not vote for John Coriel. Do not retain Jamie Groshams. Do not retain Ricky Polston. The judge that you need to retain is Jorge Labarja. Okay? Appeals Court Judge retentions for District 5. Do not retain James Edwards. Do not retain Brian Lambert. Do not retain Mary Nadilla. Do not retain Dan Traver and Carrie-Ann Wozniak. Retain Jay Cohen. Okay? And as far as the recommendations for amendments, they're saying no on Amendment 1, no on Amendment 2, yes on Amendment 3. So no, yes. 1, 2, 3. No, yes. Okay? And now Michelle is gonna put up some information from Engage PAC Florida with regards to all the candidates that are running for the state of Florida for Congress and the U.S. House of Representatives. We've got Ms. Val Demings for she's gonna beat Rubio. Yes, she will. We're gonna put it out there in the universe. Charlie Crist for governor. Carla Hernandez for well, it's not vice. What do they call those? Those. She's the second in command after Charlie Crist. Aramis Ayala, Adam Hattersby. Well, you can read the flyer. So just read the flyer. Of course, we had Maxwell Frost on. He's for District 10. Karen Green for District 7. And Geraldine Thompson, District 15. We were supposed to have her on a couple weeks ago, but hopefully we'll have her on after she wins and she's on the hill. So that's it for Caribbean Straight Talk tonight. Please vote. Vote.
And one
your
thing
life depends on it because it does. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's one thing that you said, Lima, I really want to stress out. The fact that we suggest these people for you to vote and not to vote. And the reason why and how we go about it, we look into their platform and we see how that reflects our community. Now you could make up your mind, say, well, you know what, I want to vote this or that. That's okay, this is really up to you. But we share our opinion because this is Caribbean Straight Talk and we keep it real. It's not a show for Republican or Democrats. If you have a good platform that goes with our values and we feel that would be best for our community, we're gonna push this because we're all about our community. We want to stress this out. So that's it for us tonight, and thank you. I hope you have a good time. We'll see you next time.
Right here on Caribbean Straight Talk. Remember, follow us on IG, Caribbean Straight Talk, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Caribbean Straight Talk, and also on Facebook, again, Caribbean Straight Talk.
Being the first member of a generation in an institutional body like Congress, it means something, right? It's part of the story. It is a message for young people, but I think more than that, it's a message for everybody else to not count young people out. And if we can extrapolate it even further, don't count anybody out, no matter who they are. I always tell people, look at the timeline of Gen Z. I remember being in elementary school, looking at the news with my dad and seeing all these like college-age people sleeping outside of Wall Street, talking about something called wealth inequality, Occupy Wall Street. Growing up, seeing that 30 minutes north of me, a young black man who looked kind of like me, Brother Trayvon Martin, would be murdered for just walking while black in the neighborhood. Columbine, Parkland, Pulse right here in Orlando, all these mass shootings. Our generation will go through more school shooting drills and fire drills as they go through middle school and high school. So this is kind of all we've known, and there's merit to that, right? There's merit to growing up through that, becoming 25, becoming 20, becoming 18, looking back at your childhood and saying, wow, we really deserved better. I believe that a platform should be the future you want to live in. We know that we're not going to be able to get there tomorrow, right? I think we all collectively understand that. But you can't take a step in a journey unless you know where you're going. And for me, and for a lot of folks here, it's a world where you have healthcare. And that's why, achieving Medicare for all is really important to me. It's a world where it's free of gun violence. That's why I believe in, yes, ensuring that guns don't get in the wrong hands, but also building a world where people don't feel the need to use a gun to solve their problems in the first place, right? It's also the climate crisis and climate change. We just had one of the worst hurricanes we've had in a long time here in Florida, especially Southwest Florida. A lot of it's leveled. It does not exist anymore. It has to be completely rebuilt. We need to take the climate crisis seriously because the cost of not doing anything is far greater than the cost of taking action right now. The bill just gets higher and higher and higher, and we're footing it to the next generation. This last year has been the hardest year of my life. I quit my job at March for Our Lives to do this full time. I thought I had enough money in the bank. I did not. A few months down the line in the campaign, my account hit zero and I started Uber driving at night to pay my bills. We look at our candidates across the country, they're usually more wealthy, they're usually more interconnected, and it's because those folks can afford to go a year without working. And so, there was a time in October where I didn't have a place to live and I was literally houseless for multiple weeks, sleeping on couches, sleeping in my car one night. And even though there's folks who go through that for years and years and years in this country, it just showed me how inaccessible this process is. And that was very difficult for me, especially as a young person. I'm really honored to go in. I do feel some of that pressure, but at the end of the day, I know I'm not a savior, right? And I'm not the one sole representative of my generation. We're not a monolith. We're so many different types of people with different schools of thought. I'm just honored to be in the room and to be able to give that perspective on these urgent issues that my generation is really thinking about.